It probably started with toy cars with batteries made in the 1960s that I would have inherited from my older brother and taken apart and dismantled. They would have had wires and connectors and switches in them and fascinated me. So I guess that was probably my first introduction to being interested in technology. I went on to be fascinated with telephone handsets, and I would love if I had one as a present, which I sometimes got one as a present, and I could take it apart and rewire it and see how everything was working. I would make headsets to wear with the telephone. This would be back in the 80s when I was 7 or 8, 9 or 10, that kind of period. It was always an interest to me as a hobby, tinkering with that kind of stuff. I never had a computer at home. My brother had one, but he was in a different city. So I never had one at home. I never had opportunity to learn computer programming in any meaningful way. I moved schools a lot and I missed classes and skipped years where they'd done it and I didn't do it. So the whole thing just floated past me. I never had an opportunity to get a grip on it. Eventually, when I did get a computer, it was time of internet. It would have been 1990, 91, just when well, we know internet's older, but I mean the web, when I say that there. The World Wide Web was born just when I was 15, 16, and I had left home and I was living in the big city with my brother, and I had freedoms and I was able to do things, and I ran up big telephone bills. When I got an internet account, I remember one weekend, the only meaningful, if you can even call it that, directory or search at the time was things like Webcrawler and Yahoo, Lycos. And one weekend I visited every website that was listed on Yahoo, all categories from A to Z. So I felt like I had pretty much seen all of the websites that were seeking promotion out there. I saw them all. It was interesting, simpler times with really bad design or no design behind so much of what was going on. That would soon change. And then the man who founded the first ISP in Ireland, Barry Flanagan, he had an information afternoon one day in the city centre to explain to all of us new users what the hell we have with our account, what does it mean, etc. He gave a good information session. Not very many people, maybe 20 people, maybe more, maybe I'm very wrong, but it certainly wasn't jostling. Internet was so new, few people knew about it. And he told us about, I was taking notes furiously. This was now, I knew this was my thing. And he told us about how to make a public HTML folder. And boom, that was what I was looking for. How I can publish. And I started publishing. Started honing my expertise in writing HTML. So yeah, I can't write code, but I can write HTML very good. Used to be able to. And then that was about the same time, coming close to when I would finish school. I spent the last few years of school immersed in the internet, which was a real rarity at the time. There were only a couple of hundred public email addresses in the country, Um, really, nobody had internet back then. And then I finished school. There was nothing I wanted to do after school, so I signed up for a general arts degree at university to satisfy, cultural expectations and all the rest. And my brother worked for a company who did public relations and management kind of things, and he got sent to take notes on a conference, a tech conference, and I managed to come along with him, take notes, and it was all terribly boring stuff. It was all fiber optic, undersea, transatlantic, intercontinental, no talk of satellites or Wi-Fi or any of that stuff. It was far, far away from that. This was major infrastructure that they were talking about. Well, most of those companies don't exist anymore. The Baby Bells and all that kind of stuff, if you know them. So very, very boring corporate jargon. But then, at a break, they called a lady up onto the stage to give a little presentation. And everybody in the room was aware of this presentation because they were all investors in the company that she was representing here and going to show us her product. And so she stood up, lovely lady, I don't recall her name, I know her name, but I don't recall it now, and she pulled out of her pocket a device which looked very much like your handheld mobile device today that you use, Android, iPhone, whatever it might be. And she showed it to us and she said, "This is the future." And she was right. And she listed off what it could do, everything your phone can do. Your phone can do more, sure, but back then, this was, oh yeah, when was this? This was 1994 when I saw this. That was 14 years, I think, before iPhone hit the market. I saw this device and I was telling my friends who were interested about it, and they didn't believe me when I described what I had seen, but I saw it. So that gave me a real motivation. I knew the future. For a while, I knew what was coming, and it gave me time to think about it. And I went on then. I dropped out of university within the first year. It was just not my place, not my people, not my thing. I after being there for a few months, I thought about 3 years of my life to not learn anything particularly, that I couldn't teach myself. I'm sorry, what I was doing, and just for a piece of paper. I didn't see the worth in that, and I did see big opportunity in internet, and so I tried to find some place I could learn, but there was no place to learn. This was all live, happening, emergent industry that happened in one day, basically, once he released the code to the world. And I wanted in on it, so I found a course with Siemens Nixdorf. They ran CAT, Computer Applications something training. I can't remember what it stands for, but I went there for a year. It was called Programming and Networking. That's what it was. It was described as learning programming and networking. So I learned a lot about and nothing that I wanted to learn about, basically. That's what I did. So I got that piece of paper saying I've done a computer course, but I knew nothing that I wanted to know or that was in any way meaningful or relevant to me. we did a presentation, all of the students, maybe 25 students every day in Bray was where the college was on Main Street. And we did a presentation and I chose to do mine on, guess what, internet, and the World Wide Web and what this was meaning. And yeah, everybody listened to my presentation. Some of the others were quite boring, like, how to use Novell networks in a small business with only 2 employees, kind of corporate stuff. What I was talking was new. I like new. I've always liked new. I always like to be with or ahead, if possible, of the new. You got to see it and you identify it. So I went from there to Barry Flanagan, who at the time with internet, and if you were interested to know how to do it, you could find out how to do lots of things, and I could see who was online connected at any time. And I would see Barry would be online and I would be able to interrupt him with a chat, which I would do, and say, "Hi Barry, how you doing? This is Mike. Any chance of a job?" basically. And I did this until I got a job, basically. He told me, "Come on in." So now I had a job with Ireland's first internet company, which was just a dream for me, with my stupid wavy piece of paper diploma thing, which, as I say, was irrelevant to all. And the first thing I came into the office, I think I was sitting on a box. This was a startup. This was a very small company. And somebody asked me, three, 4, 5 people maybe working there in the office, to install a piece of software. My first day, just take it easy, install this antivirus for me please, on the computer. So I was like, okay, I only use Macs. I tried to put it on, but then I was like, it's not working for me, dude. I know I had this stupid DOS Windows. I understand it, but like I don't, it's not my thing. So I thought that was the end of my job with them, but it wasn't. And I went on to be the guy who would make websites for their customers and clients, and I did technical support for people having problems. We would look at their config PPP and TCP IP, because that was the Mac hotline, was me, and we would get things resolved with no fuss. And then while I was there, you meet a lot of people in similar kind of interests when you're there. Met a lady, Irene Gahan. Hi Irene, if you're there. And she started a training company for technology, internet, such like, and she asked me to write a course on teaching people how to write HTML, which I put together a little short course on HTML, how to write it, and I did that. That was fun. That was great. I was so happy to help people who were interested. I'd love to have those notes. I'd love to see them again. And from there, Ireland Online, the company, the ISP, they got bought out. I didn't like people buying them out, so I had to quit. And when I say I didn't like them, basically it was a state-linked organization, and I said I would never work for the state. My father worked for the state. I said I would never do that. So suddenly they were now this kind of an organization. I wanted out, so I quit. Sadly, it was a great company, great people, great times. I remember the day we had to move something. We were getting magazines into the shops or something. We had to do everything ourselves. And it was the day that Bill Clinton was in town, and I was going down O'Connell Street with a box of magazines and CDs. I was just carrying the CDs in the days of giving out free CD-ROMs, down O'Connell Street, and every building, every second building, like, there we go, there's the sniper and the looker, and every building Clinton was arriving. It was tight security in town. It was beautiful weather like today, I think. So I quit Ireland Online, and I started up my own thing. I called my company Alp Street. I had this imagination of like living up high out of society in the Alps and whatever in Europe, somewhere in a rural setting, and being hyper connected and still have ability to do most of what you could do were you in the city, let's say. So Alp Street was my retreat, private island vibe kind of thing. So that was my concept for my company. And we built web pages, websites, and all that kind of stuff. Did consulting. We had a few big clients, very big customers we had. I had a few customers from the United States. This was still all very new. This is the 90s. And I was pretty expert in what I did. And then in 99, we went bust, basically. We ran out of money, we ran out of customers. There had been a big scare in the general mob about, no, internet's not working, it's no good. So suddenly I had no new customers and no business. So I had to go. That was regretful. We could have been pretty huge, I believe, if several things. If I had a couple of big ideas. In 1997, I just sat down in front of a Silicon graphics machine, which I had leased for Alp Street, and I was going through the VR development software that came with it, and I thought, it's good, but I hate to have into the whole AutoCAD factor about it. I have to draw every individual component. I thought that would be great if I could just click and put down a piece and click and put down a piece. We all know what that is. Ultimately, that's Minecraft. And yeah, I was thinking this really could be a thing. Like, it doesn't exist. It would make it so easy and fun. But anyone I spoke to about it said, no, listen, you can't do that. You're an internet company. Yakety yakety diggity yak. Stick with what you're doing. So that was that. And then I came up with it was ahead of the hardware. The technology itself wasn't there yet to achieve it, but I worked out we could do free telephonies, no problem, your Skype and all that kind of stuff, messagings. And then in 99 I came up with what I called Bubble. I saw all these crap networking type things like what the hell are they even called? The names will come to me, but social media, early efforts at social media. Well, isn't that funny? I can't even remember what they're called. They were so bad. They were trying though. They tried. But I had a thing which I called Bubble, and the idea was that you would sign up, join Bubble, and you would dig your whatever details you wanted to share with it, and your friends would join too, and you'd join your friends and you'd see them there and share stories and all the stuff that's basically Facebook today. But again, nobody liked my idea, and the primary reason for that one was that when I spoke to a venture guy about it, and he was like, how much are you charging for this? Like, to the customer, I was like, it's free. And like his whole mood changed. And it was the time when I saw that it was possible to make money and revenue with free, but nobody would believe me. I don't know why, but they wouldn't. Now they do, and it does very well. So that was the end of that idea, and I kept building websites. I had staff to pay. I had more than 10 staff working for me, so I couldn't get distracted into little pet projects on the side. There was just no time for that. We were busy with completing super saturated projects, doing work that we shouldn't have been doing and charging more money than we were charging. We were basically doing graphic design services, but we were a web design company. We weren't graphic designers, so why is all my people tied up doing your graphics the whole time? Anyway, it was fun. It was a blast. I learned a lot. And then from there, my tech career, I kind of evaluated it and I said, I've had a few good ideas here. Nothing's come of any of them ever, but I believe in them, but I don't believe in the industry because I got no support for my bubble or for my building game. So there was no vision in the industry that I could find anyway. So it disillusioned me. I turned away from it. I went away. I learned how to be a tailor. I went away. I learned how to be a chef. Then I got diagnosed multiple sclerosis. That was 18 years ago. So now, having had the MS diagnosis, which I was very much disabled, and I had been in a wheelchair and using a mobility scooter and all the rest. Now I'm totally mobile and I'm ambulant. And I did that my way. So with Lemtrada and cannabis mostly. But the point there is, what was I saying? Got distracted by going into the MS thing. Oh yeah, the tech stuff. Yeah. So I got disillusioned with tech and I turned away from it. Trained to be a tailor, trained to be a chef. I worked in restaurants. I loved it. My favorite job was working as a waiter in a restaurant. It's where I met my wife. And then the MS came along, and I'm thinking, once I had found the thing that would work for me to put it down away from me, I started wondering what kind of, is there some technology I can come up with? I was into apps, my kid was into apps, and they were very new at the time too, and I was coming up with something that might work, help somebody that has MS, but really it's too vast. And so no, I decided that there probably wasn't, but some of the things we were coming up with, my kid came up with the name Bubble Rainbow. He said, I have an app, Daddy, I have an app, and it's called Bubble Rainbow. It's like, okay, so what the hell is this? So we went down that avenue, and we now have an app in the App Store called, no, it's not called Bubble Rainbow, it might be, but after 14 years developing, we have a version. It's not perfect, but we have a version in the App Store. So that's where I am now in tech. Regarding AI, I have never initiated any interaction with an AI to my knowledge. I don't need to. I don't have to do it. And so I won't. I don't want. I'm of the generation. Like I've said, I was very early tech. I was nuts and bolts, Unix level, command line, VI text editors, FTP, Telnet, you name it. So I understand things that, let's say, the common person wouldn't understand about all of these technologies and what's underlying them and how they're operating and all the rest. So I choose not to. I avoid WhatsApp if I can at all, but I have people that only use that, so I have to have it for that purpose. And yeah, so that's where I am now with tech. I'm very pleased with this app. It has no traction. We need traction with it. I met a guy in the south of France on holiday one time. I was a homeless guy living on the top of a hill in Nice, and I always make friends with the homeless, and he introduced me to a man who was jogging along, this elderly man, and the elderly man turned out to be Bella Hetvane, who is the man who check him out. He's got a long career in breakthrough technology, from touchscreens to accounting systems to libraries. He's a billionaire. I met Bella, and this would have been about more than 10 years ago for sure. I was talking to Bella. He invited me and Sam into his home, meet his wife, sit by his pool, and lovely guy. He just bought a new Tesla. Tesla had just come on the market that year, whatever year that was. That's when this was, and he just had one. He had one parked outside, and I was telling him about the app. We didn't even have a demo working at that stage. It was all just imagination. So I told him about it, and he said, "This sounds really good. You're going to need," what did he say? "You're going to need promotion. You're going to need, no, distribution." Yeah, he said, "You're going to need distribution." And I thought to myself, ooh, I have no distribution costs. It's like going to be free to download an app store. And he was like, basically what he was saying was, you're going to need to pay to get eyeballs from people's attention. You're going to have to pay for attention. And yeah, I mean, you do really, don't you? Or climb up a lamppost naked or something. Back when we had this app, 2012, came up with it first. I thought that in a year we would have this in the App Store. Because why not? Well, I have to skip over sideways to the MS thing again. I was looking around, it's impossible to get funding or assistance really for any kind of project level stuff. It's not just me. People say that it's 400 times more difficult to get assistance with a project if you have multiple sclerosis or a disability such. And yeah, I kind of have to say I agree. So I've had to self-fund everything so far. I have a very kind company, WebMobril. They're working with me on it, and yeah, we're coming close to somewhere with that. So I again see like my building app Minecraft and like my bubble Facebook. I think I'm very early with these ideas, and the mob and the experts did the same when it comes to that at that level, and neither understand it. Yeah, I've applied for funding for this, but no funding either. My friend Barry, who I mentioned earlier, when I was talking to him about it many years ago, he said, I told him I was going to apply for funding, and he said to me, "They won't give you any help." I was like, "Why?" He says, "They just won't," and he was right. So anyway, I continue with no funding. I should really do fundraising, something. Maybe I will on this video, even, who knows. So that is pretty much my tech career. I see the future becoming just a thing in your ear. The screen is a secondary accessory. The screen will be an accessory, but I see the future, it's just something in your ear. That's my spec on that. Yeah, AI, if I was to use AI, and if I was a student using AI, here's what I would do. Let's say I have to write I have to do an assignment on flower pots in the 18th century. So I'm going to ask AI, tell me all about flower pots in the 18th century, basically. And then I'm going to read what it gives me back. And then I'm not going to copy and paste anything, maybe some graphics, but no text. You're going to read that, maybe read it twice. And then you're going to go back to your assignment, now that you've just read that knowledge, and you're going to give your interpretation of it. Don't copy paste. Just don't do it. Avoid it altogether if you can. It would be an even better idea. So that is about it. That's my tech story, history. Never learned to code. That would have been pretty phenomenal. I remember the only class of computers that I had in school. The teacher came in. I'd never had this man before. He taught maths to older children. I was maybe 14 at the time, 13 or 14, and he came into the computer room where there was 2 rows of 4 computers lined up. We all kind of sat around them, waiting in anticipation. He came in, he plugged them in, he went around all the keyboards, tapping them, turning them on, and then after a couple of minutes, he said, "They're not working, sorry about that." And that was it. That was it. No more computers in my education until I sorted out myself later on. But I had educated myself to create websites and stuff. And there were no HTML editors, website generators, creators, assistants. It was raw HTML script that I would have to write to make a word bold or larger, and insert an image here on the left or there on the right or whatever it might be. I have a big project that I did that was fun. It was an all-nighter, and it was the government of Ireland wanted to put the annual budget for the coming year onto the World Wide Web, which was big news. And I was assigned to do it, and I was given the document, which nobody gets to see until 12 noon on a particular day, and I get to see it, and I'm working with all the day before putting it into HTML format, and I work right through the night, chicky HTML monkey. I get it done by maybe 11, all the staff showing up in the morning for work. I'm still there upstairs in my little office space, lots of empty coffee mugs and cigarette butts around me, and I go home when they all arrive and have some coffee, and I probably drive home. I don't know, probably not drive home. I probably got the bus or the train home from Amiens Street, was where I worked. And I got home. I lived with my brother, my big brother, and he was there, and he said, "Go